Emma Peterson was the kind of woman everyone admired. Creative, driven, and kind-hearted, she had turned her passion for interior design into a successful career. At 35, she lived in a posh neighborhood in Chicago with her husband, Lucas, a charismatic and successful businessman. They had been married for a decade and, to the outside, seemed like the perfect couple. But not everything was as rosy as it seemed. Emma's routine started early. That morning, as usual, she made herself coffee while reviewing an important project. When she looked out the kitchen window, she saw Lucas rushing out, as he had been doing lately, barely saying goodbye. He claimed that the endless meetings and challenges at work kept him busy. At first, Emma believed him, but in the last few months, something inside her had changed. There was a silent distance that had never existed before. Lucas no longer looked at her the way he used to. He no longer asked about her day, and conversations about the future seemed to have evaporated. And Evelyn, Lucas's mother, was more present than ever, always with passive-aggressive comments. She never missed an opportunity to insinuate that Emma should be more submissive and that her career was taking her focus away from her family. Evelyn made sure to remind her at all times that Lucas was the perfect man and that Emma should be grateful for having him. Emma, however, was never the type of woman to accept manipulation so easily. Despite this, Emma kept moving forward. She loved Lucas and believed that difficult times were normal in a marriage. She was a resilient woman and was willing to fight for the relationship. However, something inside her told her that she needed to be alert. That morning seemed like any other, but little did Emma know that her life was about to turn upside down. The perfect world she believed she had would begin to show cracks that not even the most skilled designer would be able to hide. The mood was about to change. That same morning, while Emma was organizing the living room, she found something that made her freeze in place. Among the papers scattered on the table, there was a small golden envelope with a delicate silver ribbon. It was a gift card from a luxury jewelry store, something she and Lucas had never frequented together. Intrigued, Emma opened the card and found the message, "To Sophie, with love. Thank you for always being there for me." Emma's heart raced. Those words echoed like an alarm in her mind. Sophie? Who was Sophie? Curiosity quickly turned into a whirlwind of emotions. Confusion, anger, and fear mixed together as she tried to understand what it meant. For a moment, she wanted to convince herself that there was some logical explanation for it. Maybe it was a work gift, something harmless. But deep down, Emma knew something was wrong. When Lucas came home that night, Emma tried to act normal, but it was impossible to hide the tension. He came in with his usual smile and a hurried kiss on her forehead, as if nothing was wrong. As they ate dinner, Emma rehearsed the words in her mind, trying to find the right moment to bring it up. The silence between them was heavy. After dinner, she decided she couldn't keep it in any longer. "Lucas," she began, her voice firm, holding the gold envelope in her hands. "I found this morning. Is there something you want to explain to me?" Lucas, who was usually so confident, stammered. "Emma, this is nothing. It must be a mistake." He avoided looking her in the eyes, and his tone sounded heavy with guilt. Before she could respond, Evelyn appeared in the room, as if waiting for the exact moment to intervene. "Emma, dear," her mother-in-law said, in her usual superior tone, "you're exaggerating. Lucas works so hard to give us a good life. Don't create problems where there aren't any." That sentence was like a blow. Emma realized for the first time that Evelyn was protecting Lucas. It was as if she knew something. Emma felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. It wasn't just about the card. It was about a bigger secret, something Evelyn clearly didn't want her to find out. But Emma knew she couldn't let this go. That night, as Lucas slept beside her as if nothing had happened, she made up her mind that she would find out the truth. And deep down, she knew that the truth would be much worse than she had imagined. For the next few days, Emma couldn't shake the card from her mind. Every look Lucas gave her, every word he said, felt like a lie. He was no longer the man she had fallen in love with 10 years ago. Now he seemed distant, calculating, as if he were always hiding something. And Evelyn, with her constant visits and venomous comments, only made it harder. Determined to find out the truth, Emma shared what she had found with her best friend, Lily. "This isn't right, Emma," Lily said, holding the card carefully. "You need to investigate. This Sophie is not just a co-worker. And you know it." Despite her fear, Emma knew Lily was right. She had to act. That very afternoon, Emma hired a private investigator, a man named Matthew, who was known for his discretion and efficiency. "I want to know everything," she told him, giving him the details she had. "If there's something to find out, I need to know." Matthew, with his serious gaze, assured her that he would start immediately. The answers were not long in coming. Just a few days later, Matthew returned with photos, documents, and messages that left Emma breathless. Lucas had not only been having an affair with Sophie for over 2 years, but he had also been supporting her with company money. Expensive dinners, international trips, and even a small apartment in an upscale neighborhood, all financed by Emma's hard work. It was as if her life had been built on a lie. Evelyn, for her part, knew everything. The intercepted messages showed that she not only supported Lucas, but also advised him to keep Emma distracted while he took care of Sophie. "Emma is strong but naive. She'll never find out," Evelyn's message to Lucas read. Each word was like a knife to Emma's heart. In the silence of her home, Emma let the tears flow. It wasn't just Lucas's betrayal that hurt. It was Evelyn's complicity, a woman she had treated like a second mother. But along with the pain came something new: determination. Emma knew she couldn't let this go. Not after everything she had sacrificed for Lucas and his family. She looked at the evidence spread out before her and whispered to herself, "This won't stay like this." They messed with the wrong person. The first step would be to plan. She wouldn't act on impulse. When she retaliated, she would be precise and ruthless. That night, as the cold Chicago wind blew through the window, Emma sat at the kitchen table with all the documents in front of her. The betrayal was clear, but it wasn't just about the affair with Sophie. It was about the destruction of everything she had built. Lucas and Evelyn had not only betrayed her emotionally, they were also stealing the fruits of her labor. This had to stop, but Emma knew she couldn't act without a plan. The next morning, Emma called Michael, a lawyer who was also her longtime friend. "Michael, I need help. Something serious is going on, and I don't know where to start." When they met at a discreet cafe, Emma laid out the papers on the table and told him everything. Michael flipped through the documents in silence, his expression growing more serious with each page. "Emma," he finally said, "this isn't just betrayal. They're committing serious crimes. You can bring them down, but you'll need even more solid evidence." Michael suggested that Emma gather more evidence, especially about the embezzlement. To do that, she would need someone she could trust within the company. That's when Emma thought of Grace, a loyal employee who had worked in the finance department for years. Grace had always admired Emma, seeing her as a strong and fair leader. When Emma asked her for a private conversation, Grace didn't hesitate. "You've always been the only real person here, Emma. If you need me, I'm in." With Michael and Grace by her side, Emma began to put together a plan. The first step would be to find out how deep the embezzlement and financial manipulation went. Grace began to quietly comb through the company's records while Michael prepared the necessary documents for a possible lawsuit. "They don't know who they're dealing with," Michael said with a slight smile. Emma began to feel something she hadn't felt in weeks: hope. Meanwhile, Lucas and Evelyn continued to act as if nothing was wrong. Evelyn made her usual visits, criticizing Emma for not being as affectionate with Lucas anymore. And Lucas, always apologetic, came home later and later. But Emma didn't confront him. She smiled, pretended to be busy with work projects, and waited patiently. That night, as Lucas fell asleep on the couch after yet another dinner out with colleagues, Emma picked up her phone and began to scroll through her messages. What she found confirmed what she already knew. "Don't worry, my love," read a text from Lucas to Sophie. "She doesn't suspect a thing. Soon this will all be ours." Emma closed the phone with a cold smile. "You're wrong, Lucas. I do suspect. And now it's my turn to act." Emma knew that to bring Lucas and Evelyn down, she would have to act meticulously. It wasn't enough to just expose them. She wanted to expose every lie, every scam, and make sure they never had the chance to manipulate or destroy anyone again. Michael and Grace's support was crucial, but she knew she would need more help. Then she thought of someone unexpected, Olivia, Evelyn's assistant. For years, Olivia had worked directly with Emma's mother-in-law, handling appointments and documents that passed through her hands. Olivia was discreet, but Emma could remember moments when she seemed uncomfortable with Evelyn's orders. Could she possibly know more than she let on? Emma decided to seek her out. She arranged to meet at a secluded cafe, away from Evelyn's prying eyes. When Olivia arrived, she seemed nervous but curious. Emma was blunt. "Olivia, I know you've worked with Evelyn for years. I also know she's not exactly the easiest person. I need your help. If there's anything you know about her and Lucas's business, now's the time to tell her." Olivia hesitated, looking around as if she feared Evelyn might show up at any moment. "Emma, I don't know if I can," she said quietly. "She's my boss. What if she finds out I'm talking to you?" But Emma knew how to handle it. "Olivia, I have evidence that could put them both in a corner. You need fear no longer. Help me, and I promise your loyalty will be rewarded." After a few minutes of silence, Olivia finally relented. "It's okay," she said, taking a deep breath. "I knew something was wrong. Evelyn would always have me organize financial documents, but she never let me look too closely. She would make large transfers, but she would say it was all family business. Now I see there might be more to it than that." With Olivia on board, Emma gained access to valuable information about Evelyn's dealings. Olivia confirmed that Evelyn had properties registered in her name, all financed by the company. These revelations, combined with the records Grace had already collected, painted an even clearer picture. Lucas and Evelyn had been embezzling funds for years, and Sophie was just one of the beneficiaries. Meanwhile, Lucas was beginning to feel the strain. "Emma, you've been so distant," he said one evening, trying to sound affectionate. "Is everything okay at work?" Emma smiled with the calmness of someone who already knew more than she wanted to. "Everything's great, Lucas. I'm taking care of a few things. Nothing you need to worry about." Inside, she could feel anger boiling, but she knew it wasn't time to act yet. With Michael reviewing legal documents, Grace gathering more financial evidence, and Olivia helping to understand Evelyn's maneuvers, Emma felt more prepared than ever. Now, the next step was to put together a complete dossier, detailing every fraud, every betrayal, and prepare the final blow. She knew the battle was just beginning, but this time, Emma was in the lead, and she wouldn't stop until she got everything back that was hers. The days that followed were full of tension. Emma was in control, but she knew that every step needed to be calculated. While Lucas and Evelyn went about their lives as normal, she, Michael, Grace, and Olivia worked tirelessly to put together a dossier so complete that it would leave no gaps. With each document she reviewed, more shocking revelations emerged: transfers to offshore accounts, shell companies linked to Sophie, and even luxurious properties that Evelyn had registered in the name of others. Emma knew that before she could strike the final blow, she needed to create a destabilization. That was when she decided to start the confrontation, starting with Evelyn. She invited her mother-in-law to lunch at a fancy restaurant, something Evelyn loved. As soon as they sat down, Emma began in a casual tone. "You know, Evelyn, I've been reviewing some of the company's accounts recently. I noticed some strange transfers. Do you have any idea what they could be?" Evelyn, always the controlled woman, almost dropped her wine glass. "Me? I don't know anything, dear. These things are complicated, and Lucas always takes care of everything. It must just be a misunderstanding." But her expression said otherwise. Evelyn was visibly uncomfortable, and Emma knew she had hit a nerve. Lucas, on the other hand, began to notice that Emma was more reserved. One night, he tried to regain control of the situation. "Emma, I feel like we've been distant lately. Why don't we go out to dinner tomorrow? Just the two of us." His attempt at charm didn't fool Emma. She agreed, but deep down she knew Lucas was just trying to divert her attention. That same night, something happened that confirmed the gravity of the situation. Emma heard Lucas in the office, talking on the phone. He thought she was already asleep. "Sophie, don't worry. She doesn't suspect a thing. My mother is taking care of everything. Soon this will be a thing of the past." His voice was cold and calculating, and Emma felt the ground give way again. But this time, there was no room for tears. She took a deep breath and wrote down every detail of that conversation. The next day, Emma gathered Michael, Grace, and Olivia together. "It's time to act," she said firmly. Michael presented the plan. The first step would be to ensure that the company's finances were under Emma's control. Grace had already transferred key accounts into safe names, protecting the assets. Olivia provided evidence that showed Evelyn had manipulated profits for her own benefit. With all the data in hand, Emma knew she was ready to confront Lucas more directly, but she wanted him to feel the impact slowly. That night, at the dinner Lucas had proposed, Emma casually mentioned, "Oh, I've asked for an audit of the company's accounts, just to make sure everything's in order." Lucas choked slightly on his drink. "An audit? Why?" "It's fine," Emma smiled back. "Just a precaution. You know how I like to keep things transparent." The blow had been struck. Lucas came home early the next morning, visibly tense, and Evelyn made a point of showing up to help. They were both trying to cover their tracks, but Emma knew it was too late. Chaos was beginning to set in, and neither of them could imagine what was coming. The showdown was yet to come, but Emma could already see the cracks in the castle of lies Lucas and Evelyn had built. She only needed one more step before the truth would be revealed in full. And once that happened, there would be no turning back. The next few days were a veritable game of chess. Lucas and Evelyn grew increasingly tense, trying to cover their tracks while Emma worked tirelessly to ensure that everything was exposed at the right time. With the complete dossier in hand, Emma knew it was time to act. She arranged a meeting with the company's board of directors, where Lucas and Evelyn would be present. It was the perfect stage to strike the first blow. On the morning of the meeting, Emma walked into the conference room with a folder in her hands. Lucas, sitting at the head of the table, tried to maintain his confident posture, but she could see the anxiety in his eyes. Evelyn, sitting next to him, gave him a cool look, as if she knew something was about to happen. The other board members waited in silence. "Good morning, everyone," Emma began, her tone calm but firm. "I invited you here today because I've discovered some alarming information about the company's finances. I want everyone to be aware of it before it's too late." She opened the folder and began handing out copies of the documents she'd gathered from Michael, Grace, and Olivia. Suspicious transfers, shell companies, properties registered in someone else's name. It was all there. Each page told a story of dishonesty and manipulation, all of which were tied to Lucas and Evelyn. "Lucas," Emma said, looking directly at him, "can you explain these transfers? These diversions of money into accounts that don't belong to the company? Or these properties purchased with our investors' money?" Lucas tried to argue, but his voice was shaking. "This is a mistake, Emma. You're seeing things that aren't there." Evelyn, beside him, tried to maintain her composure, but her expression no longer concealed her panic. "This is ridiculous, Emma," she said, standing up. "You're trying to frame us with assumptions." Emma stood firm. "Ridiculous? Here are the documents signed by you, Evelyn, authorizing these transfers. And Lucas, these messages prove that you not only knew everything, but were actively diverting funds to support your relationship with Sophie." The silence in the room was deafening. The board of directors stared at Lucas and Evelyn, waiting for an explanation. But they had no defense. The evidence was clear and irrefutable. "This could put the entire company at risk," Emma continued, addressing the board. "But I am willing to work to correct these mistakes and ensure that the company remains afloat. However, we need to take action now." The board, after reviewing the evidence, decided to temporarily suspend Lucas while an internal investigation was conducted. Evelyn tried to argue, but she couldn't convince anyone. By the end of the meeting, Lucas was livid. "You can't do this to me, Emma," he shouted as everyone filed out. "I did all of this for us." Emma approached, remaining calm. "No, Lucas, you did this for you, and now you will face the consequences." She left the room without looking back, but she knew the coup was not yet complete. Lucas and Evelyn were in despair, but Emma had more cards up her sleeve. The next step would be to expose Sophie's involvement and ensure that Lucas and Evelyn were held accountable not only by the company, but also legally. The chaos was in full swing, but Emma knew it was not over yet. Their downfall was only beginning. Lucas and Evelyn were officially in a panic. After the meeting, Lucas was suspended from his duties at the company, and Evelyn, ever so arrogant, began to avoid any public appearances. They both knew that were being investigated, but they still underestimated Emma's determination. They tried to remedy the situation by covering their tracks and transferring assets to third parties, but Emma was already 2 steps ahead. With the help of Michael, Grace, and Olivia, Emma intensified her investigation. It was then that an unexpected discovery changed everything. Sophie, Lucas's lover, was not just a passive player in the scheme. She had registered a fictitious company in her name, which served as a front to launder the embezzled money. This revelation was the turning point Emma needed. "This is our chance to disarm them completely," Michael said, examining the documents Olivia had handed over. "If we expose Sophie, Lucas and Evelyn will lose what financial support they still have. Plus, this could be the final piece of incriminating evidence." Emma decided it was time to confront Sophie directly. She arranged to meet her at a discreet cafe. Sophie arrived confidently, dressed expensively, with a look of contempt on her face. "I don't know why you wanted to meet me, Emma," she said, crossing her arms. "I don't think we have anything to talk about." Emma smiled slightly and placed a folder on the table. "Oh, Sophie, we have a lot to talk about. Here is all the evidence linking you to the company's money laundering scheme. Transfers, fake invoices, everything is here. I can take this to the authorities right now, or you can cooperate with me." Sophie's face paled, but she tried to keep her composure. "You're bluffing," she said, her voice shaking. Emma opened the folder, revealing indisputable documents. "I'm not bluffing, Sophie. The choice is yours. Help me take down Lucas and Evelyn, or go down with them." After a few minutes of silence, Sophie relented. "Okay, what do you want to know?" From that moment on, Sophie became a reluctant but essential ally. With her help, Emma learned more details about the scheme, including Lucas's plan to transfer the remaining assets to an offshore account. Michael and Grace quickly called the authorities, including the IRS, to stop the transfer. On the morning of Lucas's attempt, the police arrived at the company's headquarters, accompanied by agents from the IRS. Lucas was arrested while trying to access the company's financial systems. Evelyn, who was at home, was served with a formal summons. The impact was devastating. News of her arrest and involvement in the fraud quickly spread across the local media, and the prestige they had built together began to crumble. Emma watched from a distance, feeling a mixture of relief and satisfaction. But along with it came a wave of conflicting emotions. The woman who had once loved Lucas now saw in him an empty man whose choices had destroyed everything they had built together. Evelyn, whom she had treated like family, was even worse, a manipulator who had molded Lucas into being exactly like her. That night, alone in her apartment, Emma thought it all over. The battle was far from easy, but she knew there was no other choice. They had to face the consequences of their actions. "I have regained what is mine," she thought as she stared out the window. "But what I have lost, no one can give back." Despite everything, Emma felt that something inside her had changed forever. She was no longer the woman who accepted being put down. She was someone who, even after so much pain, had become stronger. And she still had a mission: to rebuild her life and ensure that no one else would fall victim to Lucas and Evelyn's toxic legacy. With Lucas and Evelyn facing legal consequences, Emma finally began to rebuild the life they had nearly destroyed. The company, which had been on the brink of chaos, was now under her control. As interim CEO, Emma faced a daunting challenge: gaining the trust of employees, customers, and partners who were frightened by the scandal. On her first day in office, Emma called an all-hands meeting. In a calm but firm tone, she began, "I know everyone here has had a difficult few weeks. I have too, but I want you to know that I am committed to the truth and to rebuilding this company. We will work together to restore what was lost and make this organization something we can be proud of." Her words, filled with sincerity, struck a deep chord with the employees. Grace, who had become Emma's right-hand woman, was instrumental in this process. Together, they implemented financial transparency measures and created policies to prevent frauds like Lucas's and Evelyn's from happening again. Gradually, the company not only stabilized but began to grow again. Partners who had left returned, and new contracts came in, attracted by Emma's renewed reputation for leadership. As she rebuilt the company, Emma also began to take care of herself. For years, she had devoted herself exclusively to work and her marriage, neglecting her own dreams and passions. Now, with the weight of betrayal and struggle almost behind her, she decided to reconnect with what truly made her happy. She enrolled in an art class and began painting, something she had loved to do when she was younger. She also began attending a support group for women who had experienced betrayal and emotional abuse. It was in this group that she met Anna, a lawyer who had faced a similar situation. Their friendship quickly blossomed, and Anna became an important advisor. "You don't have to carry the weight of revenge alone, Emma," Anna said at one of the meetings. "Your greatest victory will be building a full life, away from the shadow of these people." These words were a turning point for Emma. Although she had won the battle against Lucas and Evelyn, she realized that she still carried some of the emotional weight of the betrayal. She decided that she could not let the past define who she was or who she could be. Inspired by her experience, Emma had an idea that changed everything. She created the New Horizons Project, an initiative to help women who, like her, have been victims of betrayal, abuse, or manipulation. The project offered psychological support, professional training, and support networks so that these women could start their lives over with dignity. New Horizons quickly gained traction, attracting the attention of organizations and donations. Emma began to receive letters from women from all over the country, thanking her for her courage and inspiration. For the first time in a long time, she felt that her suffering had generated something bigger, something that really made a difference. Meanwhile, Lucas and Evelyn were facing their own hells. Lucas, arrested and humiliated, began to show remorse, but Emma no longer cared. Evelyn, now without the luxury she had so cherished, lived in isolation, with a modest pension taken from her share in the company. Their toxic legacy was crumbling. That night, as she reviewed the New Horizons impact reports, Emma felt something she had not felt in a long time: peace. She had lost a lot, but she had also gained more than she had imagined. She rebuilt her life and found a purpose she had never imagined. The storm had passed, and Emma knew that this time, the future was completely in her hands. Months passed, and Emma's life took a completely new direction. The New Horizons project grew by leaps and bounds, with new centers opening in different cities. Women who had previously lost everything were now rebuilding their lives with strength and dignity, inspired by Emma's determination. With each story of overcoming, she felt that she had transformed her pain into something greater, something that truly made a difference. But Emma didn't stop there. She began to be invited to give lectures and interviews, becoming a reference in resilience and leadership. Despite her notoriety, she remained true to who she was, refusing any attempt to exploit her story for self-promotion. "My mission is not to be famous," she said. "It's to show people that suffering can be the beginning of something extraordinary." While her career and social projects flourished, her personal life also began to take on a new shine. At a New Horizons fundraiser, Emma met Ethan, a journalist who had covered part of the Lucas and Evelyn scandal. Ethan was unlike any man Emma had ever met. He was kind, honest, and shared her passion for helping others. "You are the most fascinating woman I have ever met," he told her over dinner. For the first time in years, Emma allowed herself to believe in love again, but this time with maturity and freedom. Meanwhile, Lucas and Evelyn faced the consequences of their choices. Lucas, in prison, sent letters asking for forgiveness, but Emma never responded. "What he feels now is none of my business," she thought. Evelyn, in turn, sent one last message, acknowledging her mistakes. "I destroyed lives trying to protect my son. Today I see that none of it was worth it." Emma, while not holding grudges, knew it was best to leave the past where it belonged. The culmination of Emma's transformation came at the opening night of a New Horizons Center. The venue was packed with women and their families, celebrating the impact of the project. Emma took the stage to speak. She took a deep breath, looking at those faces that looked to her for the strength they themselves had, and began. A little over a year ago, I lost everything. What seemed like a perfect life fell apart before my eyes. But in the midst of the chaos, I discovered something I never thought I had: the strength to start over. Today, I am not here to tell you about the people who betrayed me, but about how that betrayal led me to discover my true purpose. Every obstacle made me stronger. Every pain taught me a lesson. And that is what I want to leave you with. No matter how difficult it is, there is always a chance to rebuild, to create something that makes us proud. The past does not define us. It is what we do with it that shapes who we are. The audience, moved, gave a standing ovation. Emma, with tears in her eyes, looked at the crowd and felt an unshakable certainty. She had won. Not by destroying Lucas or Evelyn, but by rebuilding her life and the lives of so many others. Years later, Emma became a symbol of overcoming. Her New Horizons centers expanded throughout the country, helping thousands of women find strength in the midst of adversity. She and Ethan built a solid and respectful relationship, and together they decided to continue expanding the social projects. Emma never forgot what she experienced, but she also never let it define her. In an interview, she was asked how she would like to be remembered. She smiled and answered simply, "I want to be remembered as someone who proved that suffering is not the end, but the beginning of something extraordinary." And so, Emma not only survived the storm, but turned it into a new horizon, proving that even in the face of the worst, it is possible to start over and create a life full of purpose, love, and resilience.